if you can get strong bright white bread flour, that's great. If not, plain flour is absolutely fine. I've only got plain flour at the moment because I can't get any strong white bread flour. I've got my 300 millilitres of water. Make sure you come down and check that you have got the amount you think. So we're making our pizza dough. I've got 400 grams of plain white flour here. Bread flour is better, but I don't have any at the moment. I've got fresh yeast. I would normally use active dry yeast, which is the dry sachets. So for this, I would have a tablespoon of active dry yeast. I've got fresh yeast, which I managed to get from Jung's Cafe, which is selling flour, eggs and yeast. You will times your fresh yeast by 3 to get the amount that you need if you're converting from dry yeast to fresh yeast. So, I'm going to make a hole in the middle. I'm going to pour my yeast into the centre with my oil. Okay, and then I'm going to bring that together. You can see, oops, to form a dough. It's up to you. You can keep it obviously plain white. That's absolutely fine. Okay, I'm going to now turn it out because it's just about manageable when I turn it out. Okay. And you can see it's now starting, it's coming together. It's still a bit sticky, but it is coming together. So it's very easy to add too much flour because you think, oh, it's still sticky, but you really want to try and get used to managing it while it is still quite wet. And the way of doing that is that you just don't handle it for too long. So you don't get your fingers really involved. You're using the palm of your hand or the heel of your hand like that. So I'm going to keep kneading this, and as I do, it's going to make the dough more and more stretchy. Okay, and the yeast is going to become activated because it's going to be warming up as I'm doing this, and you can start feeling your dough begins to get a bit warm, and that's all the yeast working away, okay, in there. So we're going to carry on doing this for 5 to 10 minutes, and you can, if you've got a sibling helping you, you can cut the dough in half and both have a go, or however many of you there are making it. Okay, and then I'm going to take my dough and I'm going to oil a bowl, pop it back in with a little bit of oil, and I'm going to leave it in the bowl just with a tea towel over the top, a clean tea towel in a nice warm part of the kitchen. Okay, now I'm going to leave this, really the longer you can leave a dough the better. You can overproof it, but really, I mean, a lot of bread recipes will leave dough for anything up to 4 hours or even overnight. But for this, I'm going to probably leave it for at least an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. And I'm going to pop it in a bowl like that. And then I'm going to come back to it when we're ready to cook it off for dinner. So my onions and garlic are now softening together nicely. I've kept my garlic quite coarse because obviously you don't want burnt garlic, and it'll cook slower if it's slightly bigger than the onions. Okay, so we definitely want them to be nice and soft. I don't really want much colour on them. I want them to just soften, become translucent in colour and nice and soft before I add any tomato. I'm going to take a little bit of thyme, pop that in, but you don't have to. You can, if you want to add some fresh basil, what I would say is after you've blended your tomato sauce, break in a few leaves of fresh basil. At this point, I'm just going to add in my tinned tomatoes. As I said, it's a great sauce to make if you've got lots of fresh tomatoes and you just skin them, cook them down, and make a nice slow cooked tomato sauce, which is very versatile and useful. And all I'm going to do with that is I'm going to let it reduce down a bit, because you don't want too much liquid in your sauce, otherwise it'll make the pizza dough really soggy. So I'm going to reduce it down a little bit, and then when it's ready I'm going to blend it, cool it down, ready to put onto our pizza bases for our pizzas. Right, so we're back to finish off our pizzas. I've taken the bread out of the bowl, which has knocked it back slightly. I'm going to then make sure we've got a floury surface. I'm going to divide my dough up into little pieces. So first I'm going to do it into half, and then I'm going to do it into half again. And I'm going to give Tegan and Finn a piece. Now you can either roll out your pizzas with a rolling pin, or you can press it out with your fingers to make it the shape you want. Okay. Finny, do you want the rolling pin, or are you going to use your fingers? Here's the rolling pin. Okay, make sure you've always got flour underneath, okay, so that it doesn't stick. That's it, Tegan. Okay, so if you push, that's it, and just make it flat. This is a lovely bread, so this is proved for quite a long time. Gosh, it's at least a couple of hours. And I think the fresh yeast really does make a difference. So if you can get it, it is actually worth getting. And I think actually supermarkets might sell it to you if you go and ask at the bread counter. Probably not these days, but in normal times. Okay, I'm making two slightly smaller ones over here. Okay, Finny, that's it. Try and make it a bit thinner than that. It's got to see all those lovely bubbles. It's going to be a lovely dough, that pizza, that. Lovely taste. Yeah, not too much flour underneath. You do need flour, but remember you don't want it to be so floury that it's going to be, but that's lovely. Remember, it doesn't matter what the shape's like, because they're going to taste delicious, and we kind of tend to make them slightly oval so that we can fit another pizza next to it, otherwise we don't get them all in the oven. That's it, Finny. So let me just have a look. Let's just make it a little bit thinner. Otherwise it's going to, because you quite like yours crispy, don't you? You don't like yours too bready. Okay, so a thinner base. Right, that's it. Then we're going to lift it up. Now to lift it up, you can roll over a rolling pin like that. If you've got a little bit of extra flour, just pat it off. This one I'm going to put like that. Yes, you can. Okay, so I'm using wholemeal now underneath as the dusting flour. So that's fine. Yes, you can. There we go. Okay, so well done. Pop that one over there. That's a lovely taste. Right, so what we're going to do now is we've got the tomato sauce, which I showed you how to make earlier. When you spoon it on, make sure that you leave yourself a border. Okay, so I'm going to spoon that on. I'm going to just use the back. I've just blended it up in my NutriBullet. Okay, and I'm leaving about 1.5 centimeters or so border to make sure that the sauce doesn't go over the edge and make the dough not cook evenly. It can get a bit soggy. Not too much sauce, about that much. There you go, Tegan. Okay, great. Okay, lovely, Finny. Good boy. That's it. Well done. Okay, so then that's it. Great. So now you're going to pass your sauce over to Finny. Yep. Then you're going to do those. Right, there's cheese, we've got olives, we've got mushrooms, we've got pepperoni. Anything else? Try not to go over the border. Keep it in the middle. That's it. Well done. Okay. That's it. Finn, remember to keep a border.
It smells so nice.
Yeah, keep a border. That's it. Good boy. So that your sauce doesn't go over the edge. Okay. Lovely. Okay. Lovely. Lay yours on. Looks lovely, Tegan. Looks delicious. And then I've got the oven on at 220. Going to pop them in. And they shouldn't take more than 10-15 minutes because the size of them, it depends on the size and on your oven. Just keep an eye on them. Ours is fan assisted oven. Good. They look delicious.
Mm.